So let's say your user is logged in and you've created a session, and then your user has done some stuff and is ready to log out. Well, you're going to want to delete that session, and you're also going to want to clear the user's cookie so that the browser stops sending the session ID back to the server. And that's actually 2 steps in PHP. So the directions are on session destroy. And session destroy is going to get rid of this session file. And then in addition to that, you also want to remove the session cookie. So there's a couple of calls that this piece of code is using, and let's take a look at them. I'm going to go ahead and create a new PHP file called DestroySession. Let's start by starting the session. So this will connect to an existing session. And then there's some pieces of information that are useful. So session ID is going to return the current session ID, which is going to be the value of that cookie. And then session name, that's the name that the cookie uses. So by default, that's going to be PHP sesh ID, but that's a setting in php.ini that you can change. And then there are a number of parameters that were used to create the session ID cookie, and you can get those by executing session get cookie params. And let's take a look at what's in there. So that's going to be an associative array of parameters. And then I have a session already from before, so I'm just going to go ahead and execute this DestroySession page. So here's the session ID, which corresponds to this file. And the cookie's name is PHP sesh ID, so that's what I see in the cookie. And then the cookie parameters include lifetime, path, domain, secure, and HTTP only. And path, domain, secure, and HTTP only are the same values that would be set using setCookie. So let's go ahead and clear the session information. So first, we're going to clear the session object. So just setting it to an empty array. And then we're going to reset the cookie. So we need the name and a value and an expiration, which is going to be 0 for start of time. And then we can also specify some of this additional information that we got in the session info variable. So session info sub path and session info sub domain and session info secure and session info of HTTP only. So these values that I'm passing correspond to these values here in the session info. And then after I've cleared the cookie, the last thing that I want to do is session under destroy. But now if I execute this code as I've just written it, it may or may not actually work. And the reason is because setCookie is going to set the cookie in the header, and it's occurring after I've actually written some content into the body. So if I want to make sure that this actually works, I need to move it up to here. But if I do this, then these calls aren't going to work. So this is one of the few cases where you actually do need to use OB start and OBN flush to buffer the output. So OB start, and down here, after session destroy, OBN flush. So this way, when I write the cookie, it will actually go in the header instead of occurring after I started to write the body. So the first time I run this, I'm going to get all the session info, and then it's going to destroy it. Second time I run it, it's going to start with an entirely new ID. So let's go ahead and reload. So here's the old stuff. But now when I reload, I get a new ID because session start is creating a brand new session. And every time I hit reload, session start is going to create a new session. And if I go back to temp, you'll see that the ses under ID file is now gone because the session was destroyed. And if I go back to my cookies, you'll see that I no longer have a PHP ses ID cookie in my browser at all.